What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the next layer, where we go beyond the surface with athletes, adventurers, and thinkers pushing limits in their field. This show is powered by Elos, where we build elite thermal gear for performance in any climate. Let's jump right into it. All right, so I'm super excited for this podcast today. We have a guest named Chaz Klemkowski here with us. Currently, he runs marketing and media at Christos FC, which is a Baltimore-based amateur soccer club with 7 USASA national championships, hopefully another one after this year. A bunch of US Open Cup runs where they've played DC United most notably and a bunch of other pro teams. Recently breaking into the grassroots level more deeply, trying to impact the soccer community in Maryland. And finally, that we'll touch on today, the USL2 season just kicked off this past weekend. So a lot of good stuff happening at the club and really cool guest. We're really excited to chat with him about his story, which is an interesting one. It starts with hoops back in the day and then how he came to fall in love with coaching, volunteering, and soccer. And then obviously how it all transitions to now leading marketing for a great brand and club like Christos. So again, we'll chat about his story, the new brand building being done at Christos, and obviously we'll peel back Chaz's next layer a little bit and talk about, some hacks that he has and things that he does in extreme weather conditions and thermal environments. We're super stoked. Let's dive right in. Chaz, how are we feeling today? This
I'm good,
fine
man.
Tuesday
I'm good.
morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, man. Of course, we're pumped. Yeah, man. So we'll just dive right in. Like I said, really excited to get to know you. Tell our audience just a little bit about you and your story and how it all kind of, I guess, culminated, interestingly, at Christos and how that all worked.
Yeah, so I was doing volunteer coaching and I was a member of the board at Pasadena Soccer Club where my daughter plays. And I was there for a few years. They kind of suckered me in and I was doing their social media for them and internet stuff. And Jen Crissetti, who was the treasurer on the board at Pasadena, she still is, asked me if I wanted to come aboard at Christos and I said, yeah, let's take the ride. So here we are.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. No, that's awesome. So it's interesting though, because you were telling me before this, your background really wasn't in soccer growing up. Well, it was to a degree, right? But you were more focused on hoops, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I played soccer all through elementary, middle school up till eighth grade. I was a goalkeeper. Didn't really pursue it out outside of high school. The high school I went to was a real small private school in East Baltimore, Our Lady of Pompeii, which is closed now. Like literally, our high school was like one floor,
Yeah, it's funny.
so super small. So all we had was baseball and basketball. So basketball, I also had a background in that. Played that pretty much my whole entire life up till a few years ago.
Yeah, no, so just like it's funny because like again, like I mean it seems like through your daughter a little bit, you got back into it, right? That's kind of how you got roped back into the soccer side, pretty much.
That's 100% how it happened. So I was a casual fan. I would attend some of
Hmm.
the games when they came to Baltimore. Followed Chelsea here and there a little bit because of Drogba and Bollock. Like I really liked those guys, and I kind of fell off for a little while there, and then my daughter got real heavy back into soccer about 3 years ago. Started playing travel for Pasadena, and that kind of reignited my love for the sport. And diehard Chelsea fan now. I've taken her to her first two games here in the U.S. So, but yeah, I follow
That's
some
awesome.
of the MLS too, but not heavy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. A couple big games for Chelsea to get Champions League for next year, right? These next
Yeah,
couple weekends.
yeah.
I'm on the same side. I'm a City fan, so I'm
Uh,
intently watching the TV, and it's gonna be painful next couple of games here. And we actually play today, so that'll be fun. But anyways,
I didn't even know City had real fans.
yeah, well, that's a whole other. I can give you my defense of how I'm not a bandwagon, but we'll save that for off camera, I think.
Gotcha.
But no, man. So that's cool. But so your journey at Christos, man. So like obviously got connected through Pasadena to be at Christos, and you had that social media background. but was that just kind of you stepping up, or is that where they saw you that they wanted? And then how has your role now evolved? Because I know a lot of stuff's changing within Christo. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a ton of moving parts. So like I said, so I ran the social media for Pasadena. Jen and all them thought I was doing a good job. Then we had a conversation about bringing in Christos to work with the kids and do training inside Pasadena as like kind of partners, like a feeder system almost. So that's where I initially met Larry and Darius. So from there, I guess they kind of, I don't know, were looking for somebody at the time because they really didn't have anybody doing it. They were in a transition phase, and Jen came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to come along to the Christos team and do their social media and marketing?" So I said, "Sure." It's something I've always dreamt about doing, is working on the sports side of things. So, and I'm a creative guy. I like to do graphics and stuff like that. So that's kind of my passion. I picked that up. Taught myself during COVID and everything.
I love that.
Yeah. So the transition to Christos has been, a welcoming one. Everybody's, embraced me and, been very, very happy with my works. Yeah. So the things are moving now with USL2 kicked off. We're trying to make a push and compete here with some of the other local clubs that, like the Blues, they do a big fan base, they do a big game day down there, and we're trying to match that energy and be that for the Baltimore market.
Yep. Yep. That'll be a big game, and that's coming up in a couple weeks, right?
June 25th, that one will be at Under Armour Stadium.
Oh, because that's the home one. But isn't it? Aren't you guys playing away
Yeah. Oh
soon? In
yeah.
the yeah.
May 31st is their home opener, and
Gotcha.
that's the first is us. Well, I heard you had yourself a game the other day.
Yeah, yeah, no, that was also against 18-year-olds because they ended up bringing their college guys, which was not a fun 120 minutes, but we did end up pulling it out, which was good. So yeah, but no, that's great. So thanks for the background on all that. And then obviously we didn't talk about the youth side too, right? So are you handling all that on the marketing media side as well, with all the youth pushes now?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you ever watched King of Queens. There's an episode where Tim moves in next door, Bryan Cranston, and Doug goes over to him. He is the marketing department. I am the marketing department. I'm pretty much handling everything on my own. Everybody's throwing stuff at me, so I'm constantly busy. Like it doesn't end. Like the term "no days off" that the 2017 Christos team had. That's how it is for us that are on the board and employed with Christos.
And you have a day job, you were telling me, right? So you're balancing everything with that and a family too.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
work at
that's
I work at the Port of Baltimore. I'm a longshoreman down here, 20 years now, and luckily I have the flexibility that I can do both jobs because I do enjoy the Christos grind. Keeps my mind occupied, and I have two daughters, 13 and 10. Avery, my 10-year-old, she's the soccer player. Haley, my 13-year-old, she's a dancer.
okay.
Played a little
Okay.
soccer, little basketball. Didn't really stick, so we support her in that. And then Avery is also playing for Christo's USL youth team this year for the 2015 age group.
Awesome.
So
That's
we're
awesome.
excited about that. Keeping them busy. They keep me busy. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That is really awesome. So it's funny too, when I was preparing for this, we ran into your podcast that you had, which was awesome. So is that like kind of how you got your media fix when you weren't doing full stop Christo stuff? Is that kind of
yeah, so
what your
that
creative energy came out in?
yeah, that was prior to Christo's. That was prior to Pasadena.
Mm-hmm.
So two guys that I know, Jim Harlow and Chewy, we called him. His name was Mark.
Yeah, yeah.
They
They
started
were
to
they were
show.
hilarious, by the way. The podcast was hilarious. I listened to one.
Geez, yeah. So those two were hosting. They had asked me to come on as a guest. Like I said, this was all during COVID and
Yeah.
everything. So we did it in Jim's garage. He did a really good job of setting everything up and producing it. He made that thing go. But I know it was a lot of fun. We did it for about a year and a half. I met a lot of really cool people, interesting people. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a fun way and a great way to just story tell. and it's like kind of like a rite of passage now in 2025. I mean, especially during COVID when you were doing it, that was
Hmm.
when it blew up like crazy. And that's why we love doing it, because it just gives people a voice, just cool discussions and meeting cool people and different people. It's an awesome way to do it in this age. So
Yeah, I miss it, I miss it. I just don't have the time anymore. So
yeah, exactly. Bigger fish to fry, right?
yeah,
And so you did mention too, like, and that was kind of the vibe of the podcast. You're Baltimore, born and raised, went to high school, you said, in Baltimore. Is that also like, I know Christos has always done since the inception of the club, to be honest, a good job of building the brand of Baltimore and trying to tap into local culture as much as they can. And I know with all the sponsors, obviously being Under Armour and Jimmy's Seafood and all the big names of Baltimore, like, is that something that you're passionate about as well with what Christos is doing and what you try to do, I guess, on a daily basis, just thrive or like, I guess, give this city a stage that we live in, essentially, is what I'm asking.
yeah. So the youth side is really where my heart is because
Hmm.
when I was growing up, my father passed away when I was 3, so my mom pretty much
Sorry to
raised
hear that.
me. No, thank you. My mom and my grandparents, and I've had aunts and uncles along the way. Everything they kind of raised me, but I was always involved in sports. It was basketball, baseball, soccer. Then it was indoor. I played outdoor roller hockey. So I was involved in a little bit of everything. Golf. No, building a connection with the Baltimore, Locust Point, South Baltimore. The people there like are just genuine people, especially the ones that have been there since when I was a kid and long before. There's few. They're all
Hmm.
really excited about this Under Armour deal because it's right in their backyard. You get to watch some high quality soccer because not sure if you're familiar with it or not, but Locust Point alone and South Baltimore has a really rich soccer history, and that was really the only sport we had outdoor wise down there besides baseball. We didn't have football or basketball or anything, so everybody
Hmm.
played soccer at Good Counsel, and I think it was the Locust Point Rangers or something. Some of the like better guys played
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. Yeah, again, that's a whole other podcast where it's just like the fragmentation now of soccer and everywhere, just like in terms of like how many clubs there are, the options for kids. But yeah, like dating back, and I know from my dad too that played, it's like there was real, like, in each area, each pocket, there was real hotbeds, and I know South Baltimore, Locust Point area was one of them. And yeah, you can say Christos was founded in 1997, but it really was even before that with the guys that ended up playing for those first teams.
Yeah, my parents' age friends and before them. My wife's uncle is actually in the Baltimore Hall of Fame, Soccer Hall of Fame.
That's
Apparently he was a stud back in the day.
awesome.
Hank Kazmierski.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard that name, but we'll give a shout out to Hank on this episode. So were you're like six, what, 5, 6'6", something
Yeah, I'm
like that?
6'5", 6'6" on a good day.
Were you a fast grower were you tall when you were younger too? Is that why you
Yeah,
were
I've
playing keeper and
yeah,
basketball?
I've always been a bigger kid. Everybody in my family, we grow them real big. But yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
pretty much how I got stuck playing keeper.
I would have loved to have you on my team at recess back in the day. I would have I'll tell you that. I would have loved to have you on my pickup basketball teams back in the day. That's funny. But no, so on the it's funny too. You wear a size 15, 14, something like that?
For
14 shoe. Yeah, it's funny. On the Elo side, little plug, Chaz's was one of our first users of the product, and I made him squeeze into a 13 because we didn't iterate all the way up to a 14, but you'll be glad to know that widely available nationwide, always all the way up to men's 14 and a half in the fall. So
nice, there you go,
we're
bang.
excited about that. So you can get a good fit. You can get a nice good fit when you wear them next season. But no, so that's kind of the next topic of conversation, moving into, the purpose of this podcast, which is, tying all that stuff together and peeling back the next layer of performance and of different things. So real quick, the port, are you outside when you work at the port, or are you just at a desk inside all day?
Majority of my day now, I'm inside at the desk,
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah.
But when I first started, I mean, I was on the ships. You're outside.
Hmm.
pretty much the entire day. So I'm still in and out a little bit, but like I said, 90% I'm inside. I'm a house cat
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. I mean, your coworkers and you even experienced it. Those days, man, in the winter in Maryland, right? And
Man,
those days in the scorching heat.
I
I
tell
can
you what,
imagine what it's like to be outside.
you never really experienced a cold weather day in Baltimore until you've been on one of these ships when it's
Hmm.
30 degrees, winds whipping. Then you're up on the ship, which is a metal deck, and then the decks are only like 6 feet. So I'm like ducking in between the
Right.
barriers on the ceiling, and then they got blowers on. So I mean guys down here that wear refrigerator suits and stuff when it's that cold.
Right. I can imagine. Like, do you have any horror stories? Not to put you on the spot, but do you have any story that comes to mind with being on one of those ships or anything like in that extreme cold when you've been working or even outside of work? Do you have anything that comes to
You know,
mind?
I just remember, coming home some days and my feet are and hands are like always cold. I guess I have bad circulation or something. But it could be summertime and my feet will still be cold. And my wife makes fun of me all the time because when I get in bed, she's like, "Your feet are freezing." But yeah, my feet are constantly, cold when it's cold out. It's hard for me to get warm.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a super that's a super interesting point because, a lot of people as they get older, you lose blood flow and so you're always going to be colder in your extremities like your toes and feet, but some people run cold even from when they're young. You look at things like you might have early onset Raynaud's disease, unfortunately, which is like right when your fingers or toes get the purple
Mm,
when it's like 50 degrees out, you're getting
right.
freezing and your fingers or toes are purple. And it's a real problem for people, and that's kind of what we're trying to shed light on, is just like these things aren't okay. And so like for you, right, like you've ran cold your whole life. How do you deal with it? What are some things that you do to kind of safeguard that or deal with it, or do you just suck it up?
So initially, when you're younger, obviously you don't have everything that you're available to you now. So back
Fair.
then, you were pretty much just layered up, 3 pair of socks, 2 pair of gloves, playing tackle football in the snow or what it
Hmm.
might be. But then I started buying the little hand warmers, the disposable ones,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
the ones you can kind of stick on your socks. They help, but they don't last long.
Yeah, that's the problem with everything, right? It's either one, you cough up $500 for your feet and you get
Hmm.
the heated socks, or you get the battery powered top end insole, or you go off the shelf and you go to Dick's or whatever and grab your disposables, and those sometimes aren't reliable, right? And that's just the reality of it. Like you might get a bad batch and they might only last a couple hours. And you working outside back in the day, and obviously your coworkers still doing it in those cold environments, like that's the difference of having somewhat of a smile on your face for for hours and hours of the day while you're out there or not. And that's a major problem. And something that a lot of people don't talk about, that side of things, just the outdoor workforce and how it impacts them, and the different things that you guys have to do to kind of survive the workday, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. And then for you too, just is there anything, are you into any performance things? Like, are you still working out a lot? Like, what's your way to be active nowadays? Is it
Yeah.
through your
So
kids? Is it on your own? What is it?
Yeah, so I try to, I haven't been lately, I've been slacking, but, I try to go to the gym, 3 times a week, get in there in the morning, bang out a little workout, try to stay active that way. I do miss playing. Like, I'll get out and
Hmm.
kick the ball around with my daughter and her teammates, and my knees they don't work like they used to. So I do miss
Yeah.
playing though, but
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah. I'm trying to preserve mine for a couple more years so
yeah,
I can keep doing it. But it's gonna catch up fast, I feel, man. It does catch up fast, especially if you've been tall your whole life, it comes even faster, dude.
yeah, got that right. Knees, bad back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, awesome. So pretty much the theme of this episode, we'll tie it here together now, has been Baltimore. So I need to go quick rapid fire. You said favorite soccer teams, Chelsea. Terrible
Okay.
choice. Do you have a favorite Baltimore food spot for everyone?
I mean, you can't go wrong at Jimmy's Seafood if you're
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
east side of Baltimore. But in Locust Point, man, there's a few good ones. Barracudas, Shotty's Point, City
Hmm.
Limits, Eat. I mean, there's a bunch of good local spots in Locust Point. And like I said, I try to work with all of them, because I've interacted or worked with them one form or another back in the past. So try to keep those bridges built instead of burning them down. You never know when you're going to need them.
Yep. Yep. So interesting. I've never tried barracudas, so I got to put that on my list for sure. But
Yeah,
I've heard of the
Billy.
other ones and either
Yeah,
yeah.
Billy does a good
What kind of
job
food?
there.
What kind?
I think he's got a little bit of everything, but I guess seafood based mainly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They have this
Gotta have
pork.
gotta have Old Bay on the menu in Baltimore. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
they have this porchetta. They have a porchetta sandwich or sub down there. It's amazing.
Yeah. Awesome. Last rapid fire question here. Again, put you on the spot. How would you define, so again, theme of the episode, theme of this podcast is the next layer, right? Peeling
Hmm.
back layers, and I'm trying to understand these things. So how would you define your next layer, whether that's physically, mentally, or anything else? What is that next layer for you?
Wow, that's deep.
So that's a tough one. It's a tough
Yeah,
one,
that's
man.
deep.
Yeah. We're bringing it deep. We were on the surface, now we're going deep.
Yeah, well, I'll say one of my layers is my loyalty. It could be kind of a gift and a curse. If you're loyal to me, I'm loyal to you to a fault sometimes, but I'm dedicated, man. I like to try new things a lot here and there. Like I dabble to see what I like, but I really enjoy, this grind here with soccer and with Christos and everything. But, my thing is like, what is my legacy going to be to my kids and niece, nephews, whoever? And, I just want them to see a guy who worked hard. Dad got up, went to work every day, no days off. But we lived a good life. I just want them to have that value of hard work because nothing comes easy in this world. You know,
Hmm. That's
everything
for
is,
sure.
we all need a hand every once in a while. And I've been given a few, just hard work, and I learned that from the people that raised me.
That's awesome, man. Hard work, and the one thing that stood out from what you said is passion. And throughout this conversation, just what following your passion, right? Like, you never. I don't think it was on your bingo card 10 years ago for you to be a single man department at Christos FC and doing what you're doing now. But the reason you're doing it is because you're passionate about something. You're passionate about Baltimore. You're passionate about the soccer community. You're passionate about creative and marketing and those things you can kind of bring to light. A good lesson for anyone, I feel, and something that I'm still trying to learn at a young age and just following those passions and diving into those things and doing things that I love because that's what's going to get you up every day. It's not necessarily, I don't know, it's not nothing else other than passion, right? If you aren't doing things that you love and for the people that you love, it's hard to get up every day. That's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah,
And keep
exactly,
doing it.
man. You hit the nail on the head right there. My wife makes fun of me because I like to try. She's like, she calls me a golden retriever. Like I'm constantly got new ideas and stuff, but if you just keep talking about it and waiting, you're never gonna do it. So just jump in feet first and
Hell yeah.
see where it
Yep.
goes, takes you.
Great advice. Great advice. Well, I'll before we wrap this up, I'll give you if you want to plug, I know we kind of talked about a bunch of events and stuff. If you want to plug anything on your end for what you're working on with Christos, I'll give you a kind of stage to do that.
Awesome, yeah. So yeah, make sure you follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X now. On Instagram, it's at Christos_FC, and then X is just at Christos FC. We have USL2 season just kicked off. We have another game tomorrow night at Under Armour Stadium versus Northern Virginia. And then we are back at Under Armour the following Wednesday, the 28th. So get your tickets at christosfc.com. Their Under Armour's doing some really awesome giveaways too for their games. Like I'm going to give you a little plug here. It's a limited edition Christos Under Armour scarf.
Inside information, baby. I love it.
Yes, so they wanted to keep it secret, but I can, let's drive that. And there's only 500 available. So once they're gone, they said they're
Awesome.
gone.
Awesome. 500 available. You heard that here first. So make sure we'll plug all of Chaz or all of Christos FC socials and links to the website to purchase tickets all in the description of this podcast, guys. So make sure you check that out. And Chaz, I really appreciate you hopping on today. This was an awesome conversation. Always awesome to just, talk everything that we're passionate about and really get into that. So guys, remember, go follow everything Christos FC for us. You can find us on all platforms at Elos Thermal, Instagram, TikTok, website elosthermal.com. Make sure you give us a follow, subscribe to this podcast. And we have a really, really awesome next episode where we will dive a little bit deeper into these performance issues and challenges and have a really dope guest that has a really cool stories. Make sure you tune in that next episode, guys. Again, this is the next layer where we peel back different parts of performance and recovery and tie it all back to what people care about. Make sure you guys tune in. We really appreciate you all, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for having me, guys.